E gloria kite atu iru, e maumaro iru kite kuru, e vokaro pai kite tauta. Glory to God, peace on earth, goodwill to all people. Dear beloved, we gathered here to perfect the instrument through which you will work. Guide us, teach us. Let your love shine through us. And let all the people on earth be happy and realize their innate oneness. Beloved, we ask this, that we may become one.
Offer my deepest reverence to our beloved Lord, who shines more brilliantly than trillions of stars and resides in all our hearts. O Lord, take our love and let it flow in fullness of devotion to Thee. O Lord, take our hands and let them work incessantly for Thee. O Lord, take our minds and thoughts and let them be in tune with Thee. O Lord, take our soul and let it merge in one with Thee. O Lord, take our everything and let us be a perfect instrument to work for Thee. Loving Sai to all of you, and welcome all of you to our National Active Workers Retreat. I've been receiving text messages this morning from people who wanted to come from Auckland, that the cyclone is about to hit Auckland. So some of them have given their apologies. But thank you to all those who are here. And a special welcome to our brother Neville Fredericks, Central Coordinator for Australia, New Zealand, PNG. We really appreciate you being here, Neville. A man of great wisdom, a man of a lot of love, one who exemplifies Swami's teaching. So it's a great privilege to have you here. And before I invite Brother Neville to inaugurate and open the retreat, there was supposed to be somebody doing the housekeeping rules, but maybe they'll come back. But the main thing is, as you could imagine from the program, there's a lot to be covered in a day and a half. So, including myself, will have to keep to time. And so the moderator has the task of having the little bell or the big gong, just to give us a little reminder. So, but please, if you can support us in ensuring that the program flows smoothly, and we would like to make sure that by the time you leave here, that you are one, very clear with the aims, objectives, challenges, and how we may proceed from here. We want you to be, all of us to be clear of our own roles and the responsibilities that we carry as office bearers and as members of the Sai Organisation. And so, if there's anything that we have not clarified, answered, feel free. There's a lot of opportunities to either write on bits of paper or board, or put your hands up. There'll be a lot of interactive sessions. We want you to be absolutely clear that in terms of an organisation, they're all, singing on the same page. Okay? So we're clear. So maybe during the morning tea break, if there's any other housekeeping rules to be announced, they will be handled at that time. So it gives me a great pleasure to invite Brother Neville Fredericks to give the opening address. Please give him a warm welcome.
With humility and respect, I acknowledge the divine Sai love resident in the heart of each one of you. Om Sai Ram. Brothers and sisters, it's a great pleasure to be with you in this weekend. I thought the first part of my talk might be more of an opening address, and then it becomes more informal as we go through. But at the outset I want to say that I find it increasingly difficult to talk to Sai devotees because I feel, what can I tell them? They've read Swami's discourses, they've been coming to centres, they've been engaging with one another and going to seminars, and they know it all. But, you know, we always need refreshers, don't we? And we seem to be learning little facets and different truths all the time. So my contribution to the opening today of this retreat is given in that light, that there may be something that you can take. The Swami said there's only the one avatar. Swami's words are the truth. And so I tend in my talks to focus very strongly on Swami's teachings. Now, these events I find always very wonderful occasions when we can come together with a common mind, with love in our hearts, and with a focus on Swami's mission. Our aim in life is to advance towards an understanding that God resides in every human heart, in our own heart and in every human heart. And at the outset I want to say that I'm very grateful that we've all travelled to come together at this weekend, because it's in these weekends, I think, that we can coalesce into a unified force about the direction in which our organisation is heading, and a refocusing on the on Swami's mission. Our reasons for attending these events are noble and inspiring, because it's the indwelling spirit that's motivated us to come. Our common experience is that the Puna avatar of the Kali age, Sathya Sai Baba, has allowed us to know him, to see him, to hear him. It is through his will that we have the gift of his grace, that he's put us on the path towards universal love, truth, right action, peace and non-violence, so that we can approach the goal of life, self-realisation. The concept of an avatar was totally alien to me at age 40. It wasn't even in my vocabulary, that word. And a year later, my mind was filled with that awesome concept, having come to experience him directly. It is worth refreshing our minds as to what Sai Baba has said on the topic of avatars. Swami said, the word avatar means descent. It is the descent of God on earth in human form. And there are two aspects of the divine birth. One is the descent. This is the birth of God into humanity. And the other is ascent. That is the birth of man into Godhead, or rising into the divine consciousness. Swami has told us that all avatars come to tell mankind that human beings are avatars, incarnations of the divine. That having taken human birth, men should conduct themselves as embodiments of the divine. The avatar comes to proclaim the eternal virtues and to shower love on all of mankind. The avatar comes to bring near the kingdom of heaven to earth, as well as to build the kingdom of heaven within the individual human heart. Swami said, I am all the names and all of the forms that mankind has ever used to denote God. Look at that totality. I recall in one of Professor Casturi's books, he referred to a talk that was being given on a large stage, 20,000 people in the audience, Swami on one side and Casturi on the other side of the stage, doing the interpreting. And Swami came to a point where he said words which Casturi thought were, "The world is my mansion." And when Casturi repeated that in English, Swami stopped and said, "No." And he called out again in a louder voice, "No." And he left his mic and strode towards Casturi. And Casturi said, "I got a big fright." And he said, "I ran towards him to get my slap over and done with." And he said, "I fell at his feet in mid-stage away from the microphones." And Swami said, "Not the world, the universe." Look at that expansionary concept beyond our understanding. We do not know who Swami is. It's beyond our comprehension to conceive who the avatar is. Swami said, among all the avatars, only Sri Krishna and Swami himself were Purna avatars, with the full 16 attributes. Even Rama had only 12, apparently. About his coming, Swami said, "I have a task to foster all mankind, to ensure for all of them lives full of bliss. I have a vow to lead all astray, all who stray away from the straight path, again into goodness and save them. The mission of the present avatar is to make everybody realise that the same God or divinity resides in everyone. People should love, respect and help each other, irrespective of creed. I will not forsake you. I have come to help, to accompany and to carry you. I will never forsake you. I will never fail in my duty to my children. But I shall be very grateful to each child of mine who helps me in my task." That reminds me of the story about 12 months after Swami's passing from his physical form. The Siva dolls who were at the ashram, there was a group of Bihari Siva dolls. And one of them, it's one of the poorer states in India, and one of the men was standing right out the back at the rear of the ashram. You know those long nights that they spend alone, just on giving their service? It just moves your heart to see how they commit themselves. Their only free time in 12 months maybe, as they give 2 weeks at the ashram to serve in this selfless way. Wonderful example. And this man was standing out the back in the shadows, at the back, just on duty, just security, I presume. And about 1 o'clock in the evening, Swami appeared to him and walked up to him and thanked him for the service he was giving. Gave him some gritty vibhuti, very gritty. Now this is a wonderful thought. Look at the compassion of Swami. The least among us, just like Jesus said, look at the showering of grace on that man with that selfless service. I think this is just the most beautiful thing about Swami. I'm sorry, when I see things of beauty or hear of stories of beauty or are recalled, I just come to tears straight away, so please forgive me. Because I do think those things are incredibly beautiful. Swami said, soon the glory of Sai will spread to every part of the world. It will increase 1,000-fold, and the reason is because of the essential goodness of the Sai mission. In 1976, Swami gave an interview to the editor of the Blitz magazine. And Baba was asked about the holy mission, the divine purpose of this triple incarnation. And Baba responded by saying, to unite all mankind into one caste or family with the establishment of the divinity, that is, atmic realisation in every man or woman, which is the basis on which the cosmic design rests. Once this is realised, the common divine heritage that binds man to God will become apparent, and love shall prevail as the guiding light in the universe. Let's look at the nobility and the beauty of these words. Man has to be unmade and remade, with his ego destroyed and replaced by a transcendent consciousness, so that they may rise above the karmic cycle to command nature and avert its calamities. This is the work of the Avatar, which I am presently doing. My mission is to show the way to peace of mind, which everybody, rich and poor alike, desires. In the process of spiritual evolution, the seeker learns that the blissful state cannot be purchased for money in a shop or gifted to anyone or anybody but oneself. It can only come from the universal source of divinity, the indwelling God, that embraces rich and poor alike. This concept creates a common fellowship, a brotherhood of give and take between the wealthy and the poor. It is not material, but spiritual satisfaction that ultimately makes life worth living. It is the spiritual path that can save the world from the negative consequences of a materialistic order. What is needed is a harmonious blend of spiritual and materialistic aspects of life that will provide us with the social conscience and the cooperative spirit essential for the creation of a national wealth and prosperity. Swami advises that science is still blind to the vast invisible world of consciousness. Science is merely a glowworm in the light of the splendour of the sun, and spirituality reigns over the cosmic field where science has no place. The only thing that is manifest and common to the whole world, and in fact governs and directs the entire universe, is divinity. Nothing else really exists except divinity. When man turns inwards to realise his true self, then God will become manifest in him. Self-realisation is God-realisation. In simple words, it is the realisation that you are not the body and mind with its physical organs, but there is within you a self, capital S, the Atma, that is God, distinct from the perishable body. Baba said, I want to build one humanity without any religious, caste or other barriers in a universal empire of love, which will enable my devotees to feel the whole world as their family. Besides your spiritual life, Swami said, you have a duty amongst the people whom you live, a duty to mould society into a spiritual community. And society can be influenced only through personal example. You should elevate society through service to the weaker members of society, and love must form the basis of your service. Society shapes the individual and provides the arena for his development. It sets the ideals that should be planted before himself. And when the individual is stronger, more intelligent, more service-minded, and more efficient as a worker, society benefits. And when society is more aware of its role and the need to cleanse that role with humility and wisdom, then the individual benefits. And Swami has said that he is resolved to transform the individual and society by promoting their mutual regeneration, by the action of one upon the other. Hence the formation of the Sai Organisation and the establishment of its units in all countries to transform the human into the divine. As you can see, the obligation that we have when Swami has established the organisation for this purpose. As office bearers and Sai leaders, we are asked to have a firm belief that the aim of this organisation is to remove the obstacles that prevent man from knowing his divine reality. Baba said he is not interested or elated with one district having more centres than another. I am interested in the work, in the loving heart, in the selfless service. Better to have 2 or 3 that function well than hundreds that function best in his divine mission in the revival of righteousness. Swami, the conviction that I am everywhere, watching everything and aware of everything must keep you on the straight path of spiritual practice, service and study. Love, respect, tolerance, mutual cooperation, forbearance. These must flow from the hearts of one to all. There should be no eagerness to capture office from another's grasp or to hold it back when another is ready for it. Baba gives wonderful clarity on so many issues, and these words from him are particularly important for guiding us in our way of thinking on organisational matters. I think this is a really interesting thought of Swami's. We often talk about the Sai community, but Swami said there are 2 attitudes of mind. There's the community attitude and the unity attitude. And within the grip of the community idea, we cling to some friends and stay away from others. And he cautions against that. This cannot win the grace of the one. He who sees unity in all wins the grace of God. He tells us all so frequently to give up the pernicious habit of finding faults in others. Seek faults in yourself. Faultless people can never find faults in others. My grandson at the dinner table recently, pointing at his brother across the table, he did something. And I reached across and grabbed his hand. And I said, look, 3 fingers pointing back at you. And he looked at it silently for a while. He did. The mind was very inventive. It didn't go anywhere that time. The council later. There are 2 points to remember about the Sai Organisation. Swami says that the essential qualification of members is faith and devotion. Secondly, the development of the organisation will bring peace and tranquility to a world torn by chaos. Look at the task that we have in front of us. The kind of service and sacrifice which the Sathya Sai Organisation is rendering is remarkable. And the basis for all that love, all that is the love that prevails amongst its members. Our sole aim is to promote love, and all activities should be carried out in a spirit of love for each other. You cannot avoid making such distinctions as president and coordinator and member, etc. But these distinctions are functional and they have no place at the spiritual level. God is present equally in all, from the president to the ordinary member, and you should recognise this oneness, develop the spirit of oneness. Swami has asked us to help when other organisations need help, go and help them, because that will show the generous nature of our organisation and our attitude. He does provide some caution in doing joint services with other organisations, because quite often, Swami said, the principles that are guiding the other organisation are different to ours. They may collect money, they might have paid staff helping, whereas our service is based on our striving to find the God within. Do not seek to exercise your authority over others. Rather, find ways to be useful to them. Serve because of your inner urge, for Sai is the inner inspiration and light in each one of us. When engaging with others, Sai asks us not to waste time and energy on excessive talk. Talk soft and sweet, be kind and polite in behaviour. The highest office one can hold in this organisation is that of an ordinary devotee, for he has given us the leader as servant model. It's the triangle turned upside down. And Swami said, I am at the bottom, holding you all up. I'd like now to just talk a little bit more, go to the charter. The front page of the charter, actually, just as a reminder of which Swami handed down in 1981, and just to touch these things, because this is the guiding statement, it should be the guiding statement for all of our activities. And I'll just take a few summary points out of the front page. And whereas the advent of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, as declared by him, is for the establishment of Sanatana Dharma. And whereas this World Conference, and this was the first World Conference, 14th of January 55, on the 55th year of his advent, 1981. And whereas this World Conference is a spiritual organisation founded for the whole of mankind, not recognising any distinction or separateness on the basis of religion, caste, colour or creed. This organisation takes within its fold persons belonging to all religions in order to establish unity of faiths. And whereas the most fundamental object of this organisation is to awaken in man the awareness of the divinity inherent in him. And whereas to experience this divinity, environment and circumstance outside are not sufficient, but a change in the minds of men is necessary. And all of the activities of the organisation are only a means to the spiritual progress in this direction. So we know what our marching orders are, and I think if we do all of our activities keeping our mind on that framework, that's really very significant. As Sai leaders and active workers, the most important thing that we can deliver to the community is exemplary behaviour. This is the thing that actually transforms. When I first came home from going to Swami, overwhelmed by the experience of meeting the Avatar and experiencing his love, I told everybody about my experience. I lost all my friends. But I gained a whole lot more true friends, Sai friends, who are singing from the same hymn sheet. It's interesting when we give service, engaging with the community, and I think our big challenge as an organisation is to work out how we're going to engage, how do we best engage with the community. I think it's firstly through our exemplary behaviour. There's nothing more significant than that. Our loving attitude, our kindly gestures, our smiling, our energy to serve selflessly, whoever it is, wherever. This is the most important thing. Actually, Jack Hawley talked about how we engage with other people, and and our attitude of mind, and I think he called this, from memory, the plane of civility, to use his words. Some of you might remember this. And so this is where you have a neutral, this line is neutral behaviour and towards others, and this line here is when your behaviour is negative. So he said, you have to push yourself along this line, and we often think if we're just polite. If we're just polite, that's okay. But you can still be polite to people and have irritable thoughts towards them. So it's not really very significant just being polite. Now we have to shift our consciousness. And the next one, we're courteous. We actually make an effort to be and we move along a bit and we become very respectful for people. So pushing your mind out here, whoever you meet, keep it out here. Respectful. And over here, this is reverence. Because we're revering the God within, in every person. And I think that's as these little simple techniques, you can hold that in the framework, and when you're approaching people, keep yourself aware of, keep your mind functioning in a way where you're looking for the good in people and looking and believing in them. God resides in every human heart. As a Christian, I wasn't taught this. I grew up in a Christian community and Christian household, and somehow one day God might come into my life. We always seem to look up into the heavens, but I wasn't feeling anything. It didn't come. And I left the church. As a teenager, in the time of flower power in the early 60s, I was just one of the crowd who vacated the church and went our own way. But it wasn't until I came to Swami and focused on his teachings on the God within, our inherent goodness. We're not born sinners. Each one of us are goodness, truth and beauty. That is who we are. That is our real being. We're not the mind, not the body. Now Swami said that the soul, the Atma, resides in the vicinity of the physical heart on the right side. The physical heart is slightly on the left, towards the left side of the breastbone. Swami said the Atma, the soul, resides in the vicinity of the physical heart on the right side. And I was talking to a Hindu scholar, and he said in the ancient scriptures, the Atma is 2 fingers distant from the physical heart on the right side. That was interesting. Now, I've come to realise, when you look at 1 Corinthians 3:16 in the Holy Bible, know ye not that the body is the temple of God, and God resides therein. Flipping through the Bible one day, and I don't tend to have the time to read the Bible all that much, but I picked up my wife's Bible. It was right where I was sitting, and flipped through it, and opened up Ecclesiastes. and I look down, Ecclesiastes 3:10. The fool thinks his heart is on the left side, but the wise man knows it's on the right. Look at this common wisdom. Look at this common wisdom, this ancient wisdom that is there. Now, Swami said every individual subconsciously knows who they are. When you assert yourself, whose jacket is this? It's mine. And they didn't hear. Whose jacket is it? And you assert yourself and you say it's mine. Swami said that universal gesture of where the hand falls over the heart is revealing that everyone knows in their deeper recesses who they are. It's mine. We don't say it's mine. No, it's we know what that means. Big headache, big problems. Now, isn't that rather interesting? I think this is just, these are lovely little messages that help reveal the truth of our being. That's who I am. Our leadership in the organisation, Swami said, no bossism. No one's a boss. This is really important. This is really important. Who are we boss of? On what basis are we the boss? Now, this is a terrible aspect of, so some aspects of our secular world. There's the boss, but I think even that's softening as the world becomes more enlightened progressively. So I have great faith that things are improving. The difference between leadership and management, I think, is very interesting. And this, again, is some of Jack Hawley's words, where he separated very simply the difference between a manager and a leader. Now, there's a lady called Valmay Worthington. Some of you may know Valmay. Many years ago, at the discourses in spirituality at Vrindavan, Valmay was asked to have lunch with the guest speakers, and Swami came and had lunch with them. And Swami spoke briefly to the few of the people who were lecturing, giving lectures at the summer discourses. And Valmay said, Swami advised that every devotee should be a leader in idealism. So that's the role we all have to play in society. Now, if you look at, so much of our culture is permeated by management theory and how we should manage organisations and etc., etc. A manager is interested in goals and objectives. A leader is interested in developing a vision. This is really a nice little distinction. A manager is interested in honesty. A leader is interested in integrity, living the truth, being the example. A manager sets priorities. A leader establishes values. Managers are focused on bringing results in, getting results. Leaders give. They give their time and their effort and their energy and their guidance. Management is interested in organisational structure. Leaders are interested in organisational culture. Managers are interested in error correction, get things right. Leaders are interested in acknowledgement. Management is interested in plans and strategies. Leaders are interested in steadfastness to principle. they're all nice thoughts. Now, by the way, can you keep me programmed on time? Oh, okay. I've got another 20 minutes?
25 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Some attributes of leadership. I think this is the language I think that we can take to, it's Swami's message that we can take to the wider community. We just have to build these words into our language. You know, Ryoko Hira years ago, he was deputy, Dr. Goldstein's deputy, and he spoke at a conference in Australia, and one of the things he said there is that what we have to do with Swami's message is to ensure that it's packaged properly for the community in which we're living. And he gave the example in a supermarket, this beautiful, nutritious food is in a jar. And he said, unless the packaging is attractive and to that particular culture, people will walk straight past it and not take it or taste it. As nutritious and tasty as it is, it will be left on the shelf. So our task is to package that nutritious message, spiritually nutritious message, to give to society by making sure our language is right. I heard a talk in Sydney a number of years ago, Sri Rama, the former central coordinator, and he talked about Dharma, and if you follow Dharma, that your life will be less problematic. And that was the essence of his talk. And in giving the vote of thanks, I just had this thing come into my mind. A casual saying that the tradesmen have. Do the right thing, and she'll be right, mate, no worries. You may have something similar, you may even use that phrase here. So we have to build on that. See, this is the eternal message, you know, that you are benefited by right action. I want to tell you one experience. Now, Swami said, before I go into that, Swami said that I am in every human heart, and I reside there in the form of the 5 values. And when one hears the values being spoken of, and when they see them being practiced, they will be automatically drawn out of that person. Now, these are the avatar's words, is the truth. Now, if we have confidence in that, we can approach anyone with our exemplary behaviour, practicing the values, and speaking of the higher ideals, and they will be automatically drawn out. There is no one who wants to be spoken to untruthfully. Every human being loves to love and loves to be loved. We all admire right action. Swami said, even a gangster will say of his son that didn't follow him and followed the right path. Even a gangster will say, this boy is a good boy. Look at that. In the heart of that man, there is still this goodness, truth and beauty. He's just acting in ignorance. Wrong action comes through lack of knowledge. If we knew better, we would behave better. So that's why we don't condemn anybody at lack of knowledge. Now, a few years ago, this is an interesting example that carries this principle forward, and it showed me the truth, revealed to me wholesomely the truth of Swami's words. Now, I spoke at a function in Bathurst, and one of the chaps in the audience, Kerry Cochran, was a lecturer at the Orange campus of Sydney University, woven into my curriculum with my professor's blessing, one unit, a 90-minute session on values. And he said, I've been wondering who I can get to speak on values. He said, I've heard you today, will you come? And I said, well, look, I'm not an educator. He said, no, you come. So I finally, they flew me out to Orange, and this was Year 3 agricultural economics students. And when I got there, he and the professor took me aside and they said, look, there's about 90 of these students, about 10% or 15% are young ladies, but he said they're interested in 3 things. He said, rugby, girls and beer. And I've been given the task to speak values to these things. And they said, look, you might lose them halfway through. So don't worry, just wind up. So that made me a bit worried, you know, but I was hanging on to Swami's advice. Speak the values, they will be drawn out. Speak the values, they will be drawn out. So I started off, I made sure I was introduced properly as a mayor and a former farmer and rugby player. So I had them at least for 10 minutes. But anyway, and I started off talking about the competitive advantage of being good. They're all interested in establishing businesses into the future. But then I got into, by the time I'd finished, I got into very deeply spiritual stuff. And put these things up on the board, told them how to win self-confidence. You can't achieve anything without self-confidence, and how do you do that? Live in harmony with your conscience. I had all Swami's teachings, but I got into it slowly. Now at the end of 90 minutes, you could have heard a pin drop. And 20 minutes of vigorous questioning, and the professor had to close off because we'd gone well over time. But 2 weeks later, he rang me. Apparently they have an evaluation from the students as to how effective a particular lecturer was, or a session was. And he told me that the ranking given to my talk was the highest ever recorded at the university. Look at that. Now, it wasn't me as a speaker, it was the topic. The topic, values were drawn out of them automatically. We have to believe what we can do in society. We have this power that Swami has given us, methodology to take the message to the world. Through our conduct and through the expression and speaking about the values. Our service, our conduct, and the message in a language that is culturally familiar with the people of that country. Look at that issue of the school in Indonesia. Do you remember that story? Some of you may have known it. Oh, it only had a couple of nods, so I'll... a lady who, wealthy lady, heard about Baba and the humanitarian services in Jakarta, and she subsequently donated 40 acres of land on the edge of the city for establishment of a Sai school. And plans for a school were prepared and blessed by Swami, and they started to build. And the locals said, "What's this?" And it's a Sathya Sai school. And but they all began to, the locals began to object. They thought they were going to be converted, attempts to convert their people. And so they rushed off to Swami again. And Swami said, he told them, change the name and give the name of the school in Bahasa, the native language of Indonesia. And the name Swami gave was Exemplary Human Beings. That was the name he gave to the school. Not Sathya Sai School, a school for exemplary human beings. And Swami then told them not to display his photo in the school. He also said replace all of his quotations, like love all, serve all, with the equivalent quotations from the Quran. Now, the school has now been accepted, and everyone's very happy with the behaviour of the kids. And the villagers have been very much taken up by the values taught at the school. Indonesian education authorities have visited the school and have apparently proceeded to Prashanti and met with college administrators with a view to an implementation of human values in the Indonesian school system. And the latest I heard just recently, there was some tens of thousands now being taught education in human values in Indonesia. One school that was going to fail because had to be named Sathya. Now, I recall going to the conference for editors and publishers in Prashanti many years ago. And Swami said, in his opening, he didn't attend that, he gave his talk to Dr. Goldstein to read. I want publicity for the teachings and the message. I want publicity for the philosophy, not the person. About me there is no need to speak. This is really significant, I think, in the way in which we approach our respective communities. Just a few words from Swami, and look at that transformation. I'll share another story. I don't know whether I told this to you before, you forget, don't you? This is the lawyers from New York. And here's the power of the avatar in a few words can change lives. A New York couple at the peak of their profession in the law fraternity in New York heard about Swami, became inspired and rushed to Prashanti. One of them got front row, and Swami came up and said, go home, sell up all of your property and possessions and come back. Well, they were very impressed with Swami, and they stayed a while, and then they went home and they said, okay, we're going to do that. It took them 6 months to sell up their partnerships in their law firms and sell their property and everything. And back they came. And one of them got front line again. Swami came past. Why are you here? Isn't this, it's just a trick, isn't it? And so their heads were spinning for a while. And they got over that. And they started to think, and they realised, well, we've got enough resources to live. We don't need to work. We've got enough resources. And they ended up going to New Orleans. And they set up a law practice there, giving free legal service to the disadvantaged in that city. And the most important, they had never been happier in all their lives. He gave meaning to their lives through service. We sure have a good Swami. He can advise us like this. What is the guide in our daily conduct to help us live the lives that he is asking us? And how do we hold our consciousness in a way that we are aware about the truth of our being. And Swami said that, told me this. He told me to do public work, and I went into local community, local council again, and highly inspired, I was trying to love the opposition, full on, and it wasn't working. And that made me try to love them even more, and it gave them a free kick. It's just politics. I came back and Swami said, spiritual, spiritual, spiritual. Always thinking spiritual. Confusion, he said. First common sense, then spiritual sense. You have to live in the world. And that put me on the right path, so I was able to go back and manage the opposition then. Still loved them, but I wasn't being firm enough with them. You know, it was an interesting aspect. And then Swami asked me the most important question. How do you love another? And he knew I was struggling with that in the environment that I was in. And he said, you must first love yourself. And how do you love yourself? You must first get self-confidence. And how do you get self-confidence? You must live in harmony with your conscience. Now that has been the greatest teaching that he gave me. Now to get in touch with your conscience, it's a very subtle force. And Swami said, you have to foster a sensitivity to your conscience. That is the voice of God. Daily you can experience the divinity in two ways. When you express love towards someone or something, that is God's love. But the second one is when you experience the prompting of conscience, that is the voice of God from within. So develop a sensitivity towards that. And it can be a bit difficult. But Swami said, if you're not connecting with conscience, wait. And we have a saying, I think I'll sleep on it. And in the morning you wake up and you've got clarity. So Swami said, use that technique. And I've made nearly all of the worst decisions in my life when I've acted impulsively. When I haven't stopped to connect with the divine within. Just in finishing, I'll give you another practical example. I used to test Swami's ideas out. He'd say, when you go and give service, don't expect the world to rush to you and serve with you. It simply won't happen. And about service, he said, don't think that you're going to change the world with your service. That may or may not happen. But what will happen, it will change you. So the reason we're giving service is to transform ourselves. It's an accelerated path to our own transformation. That's why he said people will observe you in your work. And he actually said on one discourse, 3 years. 3 years for people to observe you and your behaviour. 3 years and people will join you. They'll watch you that long before they say, that's... Now, there was in our village, council had bought some new land and there was a park and there was no trees in it. So my wife and I and 2 other devotees locally, we said once a quarter we'll go there and plant trees and look after them. And we got the trees from the local council. Now this park was overlooked on a hillside by a whole bunch of houses. It was interesting. At the end of 3 years, we were working there, went back to do the maintenance work and put some mulch around the trees. And this bloke came down, walked down, started to talk a while. He said, look, Neville, he said, we've been watching you for a while. he said, don't come anymore, we'll look after them from now on. 3 years. It's all about the exemplars, isn't it? So brothers and sisters, it's been, I hope I haven't been a long talk, I'm sorry, I don't normally go an hour, but it's been a pleasure, and I do trust that we have very joyful and exchange of ideas and information and inspiration during this conference. Om Sai Ra.